Two of the most powerful figures in Indian mythology spent their lives walking in opposite directions, but their journeys started with the same bizarre event. They both encountered a divine, wish-granting cow. The fallout of that meeting forced both men to abandon their previous lives entirely. It leaves us with a highly practical question. When an overwhelming force shatters your reality, do you focus entirely on changing yourself, or do you take up arms to force the world to change? Take Maharshi Vishwamitra. He started out as King Kaushik, a fearsome, commanding warrior who relied entirely on military aggression. Then look at Parsuram. He was born into a quiet lineage of Brahmin sages, raised in an environment of strict nonviolence. This panel illustrates the great swap. Vishwamitra traded his royal crown for spiritual peace, while Parshuram traded a quiet life for a battle axe. Moving to the data table, the opposition is clear. Their birth and final identities perfectly mirror one another. By tracing how they arrived at these opposite extremes, we can evaluate the actual practical costs of trying to rewrite our own default programming. Navigating these two options, internal self-mastery or external force, sets the foundation for how a leader handles major conflict. For Vishwamitra, the catalyst was his own arrogance. As King Kaushik, he decided he wanted the divine cow Nandini, and he tried to forcefully take her from the ashram of sage Vashishta. He marched in with an elite military force. Vashishta didn't lift a weapon. The sage's mystical defenses effortlessly routed the entire army. This data table isolates his driving truth. Witnessing that defeat forced him to realize that physical military might, Kshatriya tej, is outclassed by spiritual mastery. Acting on that realization came with an immense price. He surrendered his kingdom and his wealth, walking into the wilderness to endure thousands of years of grueling physical penance. The weather and the isolation were easy compared to his real obstacle. He was carrying an immense ego and a temper that constantly wiped out his progress. You can see the scale of that ego in this diagram. When the gods refused to let King Trishanku into heaven, Vishwamitra projected his own cosmic energy and built a parallel heaven to house him. That staggering flex of willpower proved his capability, but it cost him centuries of accumulated spiritual energy. He had to start his penance entirely from scratch. As the panel on the far right shows, he only achieved the ultimate title of Brahmarshi after he let go of his desire for revenge and conquered his internal flaws. His journey demonstrates a harsh reality. Leveling up your capability requires killing your ego. The process is slow, lonely, and intensely painful. Parshuram faced the exact same catalyst, but from the other side. A tyrannical king invaded his father's peaceful ashram and violently stole their divine cow, Kamdenu. Parshuram watched his non-violent father become a victim. The experience filled him with deep sorrow and disillusioned him with strict pacifism. As highlighted in the data table here, his driving truth became the exact opposite of Vishwamitra's. He realized that non-violence fails when you are dealing with uncompromising, cruel oppressors. So he made a radical trade-off. He stepped away from his Brahmin origins, took up a battle axe, and embraced the lethal duties of a warrior. He launched a relentless, bloody crusade across the continent, systematically hunting down and eliminating corrupt rulers. In the short term, his extreme method worked. He removed active threats and restored a harsh, immediate form of justice. But his anger blinded him to a fatal flaw in his strategy. By wiping out the entire warrior class, he emptied the nation's defenses. His righteous violence cured the immediate disease of tyranny, but it killed the societal immune system, leaving countless innocents vulnerable to foreign invasion. Parshuram's path proves that being passive against active evil isn't virtuous, but applying unilateral, unchecked violence creates dangerous vulnerabilities. If extreme inward focus takes thousands of years and extreme outward violence destroys your defenses, what is the optimal way to handle conflict? To find the answer, we have to look at how these two perfectly opposite paths finally intersected. This bottom panel reveals the solution. Parshuram's violent crusade broke the protective system, and Vishwamitra, the former warrior, stepped in to repair it. Vishwamitra took on the role of mentor to Ram and Lakshman. He armed them with ancient knowledge, political strategy, and divine weapons to build a new, stable era of righteous protectors. We can map this out on a decision matrix. Plotting the Vishwamitra strategy in the top left quadrant shows us when to focus inward. Apply this when your primary obstacle is your own lack of capability, excessive pride, or internal anger. The trade-off is time. You have to accept a slow, unglamorous period of intense effort to upgrade your internal software. On the opposite end, we plot the parsuram strategy in the bottom right. You deploy this only when facing active external corruption or systemic tyranny that cannot be reasoned with. The cost here is heavy. Enforcing hard justice brings severe collateral damage and deep personal burnout. Mastering these strategies means moving between both extremes as the situation demands. Lasting harmony requires the philosophy of coordination. You need the spiritual clarity of a sage to know exactly when a fight is necessary, and the disciplined strength of a warrior to actually execute it.